I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear the thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Well, you've heard the news. Cops are sweeping in on the Heuermann home, and it all looks very dramatic and impressive. And this is something that happened early on Monday. Cops launched a massive new search on the home of the suspected Gilgo Beach serial killer Rex Heuermann. And what are they trying to do? Well, they're trying to find out where the crimes happened, or indeed if the crimes occurred inside his family's house. Now, what do you think? Where do you think the crime happened? Inside the house or somewhere else? If it's inside the house and there's no evidence, what then? Now, at this late stage in the game, if prosecutors can't even say where these crimes happen, they do indeed have a very weak case. Now, I have polled you guys, and I asked you what you thought, and we're going to deal with that in a moment. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you're enjoying this analysis, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. So, certainly on my poll, there are almost 100 votes, and most of you are saying this massive search is a sign of a big break and lots of progress in the case. Then also a fair number of you are saying another body is about to be found, and I presume that is at the residence. Then just 4% say just that it's a sign of just how weak the state's case is. And then a couple of you say the police can't prove where the crime happened. And so clearly a majority of you guys think that this is a sign of excellent progress in the Heuermann case. Now, I think the talent, one is talented in true crime if you're able to look at details, and you also you're able to look at the big picture simultaneously. Now, obviously, if we look at what's happening here, it does seem quite spectacular. I think they spoke about 5 helicopters circling the home, tents going up, lots of activity taking place. And you might look at that and think, wow, that is impressive. This is a sign of a big break in the case, right? Or that another body is about to be found. But what if we take a more global view and we bear in mind what has already happened in this case? It was established early on that 3 victims were linked to Rex Heuermann, or appeared to be linked to Rex Heuermann. A 4th was added much later. Then there was an effort to investigate possible crimes in other states, I think South Carolina and Nevada, in Vegas. Did anything come out of that? And then more recently, there was the search of the Manorville Woods near the Heuermann home. If you take all of that and you sort of put it together, you basically have 4 victims, and they linked kind of in a tenuous way with things like hair and a little bit of DNA. And so the real problem that the authorities have is trying to connect Heuermann to the victim. So obviously there's a connection in terms of some of the evidence, but can the authorities place the victims inside Heuermann's home? So do you see what I'm getting at? So I don't think this is a sign of a big break and progress in the case. I don't think it's a sign of another body about to be found. Obviously anything is possible, but you would imagine the extensive searches that they did to begin with would have uncovered something if there was something to uncover. I think that this is evidence of just how weak the state's case is, and also that the police can't prove where the crime happened. Now, one of the ways to prove where crime happened is through blood evidence, For example, in the Patrick Frazee case, they couldn't find any evidence that a murder had occurred there. But when the accomplice said that there was a lot of blood, the authorities tore up the floorboards and then found blood between the timbers of wood and sort of underneath them. And so is that a likely scenario here? Well, not if there was no shedding of blood. If it was a case of asphyxia, there might be minimal blood. And we're also dealing with possibly a perpetrator who's extremely meticulous in his execution of his work and also of his crimes. So just taking a very sort of glossing view of the efforts of the authorities to search the nearby woods and the victims that were involved in those searches, I wasn't really convinced that they fit the same profile of the victims, the original 4 victims. They were not really a similar age. They didn't really have a similar look about them. And so what I think is this is a sign of growing desperation. Now, if we go to an article from the New York Post, quote, "The development came hours after police choppers began circling the property around 8 a.m., with the entire block soon jammed with state troopers and Suffolk County cops. Workers with the local medical examiner's office were seen at the married Manhattan architect's middle-class home in Massapequa Park in the afternoon. A mobile command center and crime scene investigation truck or several trucks lined the street while white tents were erected in the front and backyards with large white boxes hauled inside for inspection." Again, it all looks and sounds impressive, but what evidence are they going to find? And this is the part that's really important. If they do find evidence, the defense can easily argue contamination because there was a period when the authorities searched the scene and then there was a long period where nothing happened, where the family moved back in. ASIM moved back in. Heuermann'S kids moved back in. And so one could argue that there's some kind of conspiracy and someone brought evidence into the house since it wasn't there when when they originally looked for it. Now, another possibility is perhaps there is evidence that they are going to find. Perhaps the architect built a special bunker that we still don't know about. According to the article, despite a trove of circumstantial evidence, this is quite important, investigators have yet to pin down where Heuermann'S alleged victims were killed before their bodies were dumped on a desolate local beach. And this is what prompted Monday's second search of the home. And that is what law enforcement have disclosed. They are trying to find where Heuermann'S victims were killed. Now, if you think about it, I don't really know exactly how old this case is in terms of since the arrest, but so much time has gone by and they still can't say where the crime happened. They can't actually say where the actual crime scene is. So if you're one of those people saying this is a sign of a big break and progress in the case or another body is about to be found, then either you're not paying attention to what's being said or you paying too much attention to YouTubers who are trying to sensationalize this. True crime is kind of a funny thing. The thing that seems very obvious is often not the case, and the thing that is subtle is often overlooked. And it's because of our tendency to want to believe things are worse and more shocking than what they really are. And I mean, if you're a YouTuber, you want there to be a break, you want it to be another body to be found, but that's not what the facts seem to be showing. It might be good for your channel, but it's not really reality. What's the difference? Or shouldn't you be someone who's able to determine reality by looking at the evidence, not determine a reality that suits you? And that eventually shapes what other people think as well. In any event, according to the article, crime lab technicians could be seen in the front yard of the home on First Avenue setting up a tent after descending on the rundown single-family home before 7 a.m. I've actually been there. It's not a terribly large property or house, so I don't think it's going to be very hard to sort of go through everything and determine, whether basically exclude the possibility that there's some kind of hidden bunker or anything. Anyway, a heavy police presence was spotted in the area by Chopper 4 for much of the day, and the street in front of the home was closed off. Officers also removed boxes and bags of evidence from the house that is about 40 miles east of Manhattan. We still don't know how long the search is going to last, but this is a key piece of the puzzle that still eludes the cops. If there is evidence of a crime, is it anywhere in the home? Thus far, it looks like the meticulous perpetrator has one up on his pursuers, doesn't it? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.